I'm Jen. I'm back. It's been a year. But here I am again. So basically I quit making videos. Not that I ever made that many to begin with, but I quit making videos so that I could go back to school. Because I was going to school and working full-time, and who has time for hobbies in addition to that? Nobody. So anyways, I'm back. And I used to film in front of my bifold closet doors, and now I have actual bookcases. You know, the same ones everyone else has. Right? The IKEA Billy shelves that everybody else has. I bought one a few months ago to check it out to make sure it worked out fine, because I was kind of worried that it would sag or something like that. Though, I mean, everybody has them, so I figured they were probably good. So after it worked out for a few months, I went ahead and bought 2 more so that I would have 3 and have tons of room and have so many empty shelves to fill with books. That's a joke, apparently. So instead of having a full empty one that I got to daydream about filling, it turns out that my current books already fill the 3 I have, and I actually need a 4th one just to put up the books I already have. So yeah, of course, if you have books, you already know that that's how it is. So, yeah. I'm not really sure how to get caught back up. I was trying to think about it and trying to figure it out earlier, because, like, I've read 70 books this year, and who wants to listen to me talk about all 70? Or, you know, I forgot to haul any of my books because, you know, school. And honestly, a lot of my books were still in the shopping bags from Books A Million, which is sad too, right? Anyhow. So, to catch up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick book tour. It's not going to be as fancy as a lot of book tours because I want it to be short and sweet. So I'm not going to pull out every book because, honestly, who cares? So I'm going to show you what I have. And, yeah. And then we'll be caught up. And then I'll just make videos going forward. You know, I'll make a book haul video with the Books A Million bags that are still in my dining room. Right? Good. Yay! Alright, so before I talk too long and make this video super awkward, I'm going to go ahead and start the bookshelf tour, I guess. Alright, here we go. Starting with shelf number 1. This is kind of my fancy bookshelf. So as you see to the far left, I have Aesop's Fables. Then I have a book I can't pronounce. Then I have Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I've read that one. David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I have not read yet. Tom Jones by Henry Fielding. I have not read yet. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I've read. Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. I have not read. Selected Stories by, goodness, I'm going to butcher it, Guy de Maupassant. Have not read. Selected Essays of Montaigne. Have not read. Plato's Selected Dialogues. Read like half of that. So not like a lot. Then let's see, Gargantua. I have not read. Have not read, okay. And up on top, laying on top because there's no room for it, is George Eliot's The Mill on the Floss. I have not read that one yet. Alright, moving the camera down. Here I have, let's see, Romantic Poets. Have not read all of that. Confessions of St. Augustine, haven't read. Vanity Fair by Thackeray, haven't read. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, read it, loved it. Barchester Towers by Trollope, haven't read. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, read as a kid, need to read again. Virgil, have not read. Candide, however you say it, by Voltaire, have not read. H.G. Wells, as a kid, I think I read Time Machine. I think I read War of the Worlds. Oops, you can't even see that one. Walking Down. Alright, H.G. Wells is that combo. Most of these are Franklin Library leatherbound. I've got a couple Easton Press in there, though I couldn't tell you which was which, unfortunately. I like them equally. Franklin Press is a lot more affordable. So most of them are Franklin Press. Alright, moving down to my next shelf. This is similar to the previous shelf, only these are all juvenile books, other than those extras that are laying on top, because, like I said, shelf fold. Alright, let me get it set up where we can see it. Alright, Under the Lilacs by Louisa May Alcott. These are all the junior deluxe editions. I happened upon these at a thrift store in Michigan. I couldn't help myself because I have no self-control. And then I had to ship them to myself because I had no room in my luggage. Yeah, all that stuff. Okay, so Pinocchio, King Arthur and his Knights, Peterkin Papers, stories every child should read, stories from the Arabian Nights, Rip Van Winkle, and other stories, Lassie Come Home, Robin Hood, Kidnapped, The Little Duke. How many of these have I read? Let's see. Kidnapped, Lassie Come Home, King Arthur and his Knights. However, read them like long ago, like as an early teen, so I can't remember them. They're on my to read again list. Up on top you see a couple paperbacks, In the Heart of the Sea and On the Road by Jack Kerouac. Have not read. I got those for like $1, I think. And I couldn't help myself. So they're going to be read. Alright, from there, I'm going to go ahead and pan over a bit. Oops, totally wobble the camera horribly while I do it because that's just how I roll. And let me go ahead and get a little further over so that you can actually see what I have. Alright, that's not great, but not horrible. So I have the McGuffey Readers, Ozma of Oz, Wizard of Oz, Blitz. It's a story about an old fire engine pulled by horses. It's about one of the horses that pulls that fire engine. Loved it as a kid, haven't read it as an adult, but I saw this paperback and had to buy it. Then Ramona Forever, Ramona the Brave. I've actually never read the Ramona books, but I liked those vintage covers, so I bought them. The Little Lame Prince I read as a kid, and that's the same version that I read as a kid, so I had to buy it even though it was a gross paperback. Then, let's see, Kazan, The Wolf Dog, Bear, Son of Kazan. I love that famous dog stories series, so whenever I see one, I go ahead and buy one. I have a couple vintage Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy books up on top, along with a book called Champion Dog Prince Tom, about a Cocker Spaniel, and I absolutely loved that book as a kid. I can't recommend it. It's probably a terrible book, but you know, children are not very discerning. And so I have 3 variations of that book because I have no self-control. Continuing on, a horse book I haven't read, but it looked old. Hotel for Dogs, haven't read yet, but again, like the vintage cover. Black Stallion, and then this one I think is my original version of Blitz, but you can't even read the side because it's all tore up, because I read it so many times. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Like I said, 2 more copies of Champion Dog Prince Tom. Old Yeller. This one's kind of fun because it is the movie edition. There you go, now you can see it. It's the movie edition. I couldn't help myself. Oh goodness, let's see if I can... I'll have to just put this away. Somehow. Go back in there. Thank you. Alright. Then Puppy Lost in Lapland. I'm sure that's terrible. But I love my vintage books, so there we have it. Then I have an entire Marguerite Henry collection because I adored these as a kid. I was one of those horse crazy children. So yeah, please don't judge me. There's plenty of duplicates of these as well in here because I like one copy better than the other copy because, yeah, one has a nicer cover, one has a nicer interior, one has a better layout, and like I said, no self-control. Alright, on to the next shelf. Oh, and the Marguerite Henry books, I've read every single one of those many times. This continues my old juvenile fiction shelf. More Marguerite Henry wraps around the corner. I've read and loved all of those. Can't vouch for them now. They're probably problematic, but, you know, I'm sentimental. I can't help it. Alright, so going around the corner, I have some Tove Jansson, Bobbsey Twins, a bunch of books by Jim Kelgard. I loved his Big Red, Irish Red dog books. They're about a bunch of Irish setters, and yeah, I was dog and horse crazy, so let's see. Larry of Stony Ridge, Lassie Come Home, Shark Lady, Year of the Black Pony, Hatchet. That's my childhood copy. It is mangled. I read it to death. A whole bunch more horse books. Show Jumper, Wild Appaloosa, The Blind Colt, and then a really old copy of Bambi. I love that copy. I hadn't read Bambi as a child. I just read it as an adult, and it was pretty amazing. I actually really liked it. It held up nicely. Wild Animals I Have Known. I had that book as a child and read my copy to death and found that copy in a thrift store and had to have it. Then I have an old copy of Encyclopedia Brown, the first book. And after that, these are my old or strange, I guess. Sorry, camera's gonna wiggle a little bit. My old or strange juvenile picture books. Some of these are just harder to come by, or that you have to buy them from another country, that kind of thing. So that's why they're up here on the top shelf, because I didn't want them to accidentally get mixed in with kids' books and, you know, be used as a placemat, as children will do. I still let her read them. I just kind of police where they're at. My favorites in these would be the Blaze books by C.W. Anderson. I love the pencil horse drawings. I adored those as a kid. I just loved them. So whenever I see one, I have to buy it, even though most of them are kind of gross at this point, but I can't help it. The Alfie Atkins books by Gunilla Bergstrom. Those are imports because I don't think they ever came out in the US. They're very strange. I recommend them if you like picture books. Little Red Train Storybook, Clever Dog, How Fletcher Was Hatched, Old Bear. It's just... Oh, Prince Bertram the Bad. That one's kind of hard to come by these days. I got lucky and found one in a thrift store, but when I was looking for one on eBay, they were all like $60, which I thought was insane for that book. Alvin the Zookeeper. You get the idea. Oh, Dusty Wants to Help. The Sandbergs books are actually very cute. They're hard to come across as well, so if you come across one cheap, I would suggest buying it because they're adorable. And then a very old copy of Harry the Dirty Dog. So yeah, that's my strange picture book collection. Alright, you're gonna get briefly jostled while I lower the camera. Whee! It's like a ride! Yay! Ugh, we are not going to start here at the nonfiction shelf. So, let us pan a little bit around. Don't get motion sick. And now we are back at the first shelf. Oh goodness, that's an old picture of me. Let's move that. Let's move Pusheen, and then you should be able to see everything else. Okay, great. So I have some 1890s copies of Dickens. I have The Land That Time Forgot by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Have I read them? No. No, I have not. They're old copies, so I'm going to read as ebooks because I think those books would fall apart if I actually tried to read them. The published date on that set of Dickens is 1898, I believe. So the paper pretty much wants to crumble when you hold it, so I will not be reading that. I also have Dickens, The Old Curiosity Shop. That one, goodness, I can't remember the date on that one. But it also kind of feels a little bit crumbly, so that's not a reading copy either. That's just a hangout on the shelf copy. The Story of Reynard the Fox, I actually found in the garbage like 2 months ago. I have no idea what it's about. It just ended up on my shelf because it looked cool next to the other things. Green Grass of Wyoming, same thing. 59 cents or something at a thrift store, and it looked like the same kind of layout as those Famous Dog Stories books. You know, it's just old, and I like the look of it, so I'm like, you know what, maybe it'll be fun to read one day. Then I have a nice copy of The Hobbit. I can't remember what year that releases, but it's at least 40 years old. So yeah, that's kind of my random old books. And then we get to my YA books. I hadn't realized how few YA books I had. Let me go ahead and get this slid over a little bit. There we are. There we are! My entire YA collection. Isn't that sad? So I have, and the top one's not even YA. Let me go ahead and set these down. Alright, so I just bought this one a couple weeks ago at Books A Million. It is the anniversary edition of Bunnicula. I could not help myself. I have no self-control. There's that little orange foil dot of carrot juice dripping off the rabbit fangs. And. Oh my god, the page ends are orange. It's carrot blood colored. So yes, I needed this. What edition was it? 40th anniversary edition of Bunnicula. So I had to have it. It's fuzzy too. It's like a velour, it's a fuzzy cover. And orange pages. I mean, come on. I was not going to make it out of the bookstore without that. Because it's adorable. And there's a little carrot for the eye. So yeah. I'm hopeless. Oh goodness, let me move my weird 1960s mug over because I collect weird things. Alright, so this pile. I have Rebound. I got this heavily discounted at Ollie's a few weeks back. I didn't realize that Ollie's had a huge book section, so now they're pretty much like one of my favorite, one of those kind of discount stores. I don't really like Big Lots because no books, but Ollie's has like a pile of books. So, We Were Liars Deluxe Edition was just discounted heavily at Books A Million a few weeks back, so it was like $3.95 or something. So I had to buy it. I made Spouse read it. And he didn't, I don't know if he appreciated it as much as I did, so, yeah. That other book below it, The Returning by Christine Hinwood, it was a freebie at a library sale, so I grabbed it. Have not read it yet. It's probably one of those books that I'll just read and donate, because I don't usually like to keep library discards unless they're like really obscure books. Turtles All the Way Down I bought new forever ago when it first came out because I had read all the other John Green books and I needed that one. And the waiting list of the library was like 60 people long, so I wasn't going to do that. Anyhow, Surrender Tree was free. I grabbed it because I've liked other things by Engel, haven't read it yet. Maze Runner and Hunger Games I read. I used to have hardcovers of them. I donated them when I moved, and then I regretted no longer having them, so I don't know. I don't know why I got paperbacks because they were like $1, okay? So I may get hardcovers again at some point. We'll see. Call of the Wild and White Fang. Read as a kid, loved. So I have that copy for whenever I feel like reading it. Twilight. I had a hardcover set of Twilight, and then, you know, I felt guilty about liking it, so I got rid of it because everyone made fun of Twilight, right? Everybody did. And now I'm like, man, those were actually kind of decent. I mean, I didn't really like, there were parts of it I didn't like, but let's face it, I read them all in one sitting, you know, so I liked them. Anyhow. I'm going on too long about that, so I'll replace those at some point as well. The other book next to it is another library discard by Louise O'Neill, Only Ever Yours. I liked her other book called Asking for It, but I haven't gotten to read Only Ever Yours yet. So that's on my list. I'll get there. Golden Compass and Amber Spyglass I love. I keep hoping someone's going to release a really nice hardcover version, because I don't really like the versions I have. So I'll buy all three. And Endangered is also another freebie off the discard cart at the library. And I'll probably read it. If I like it, I'll keep it or get a better copy. Or if I don't like it, I'll donate it. So that's pretty much how that works. Alright, next shelf. This one will go a lot quicker. Alright. Let's see if I can go out a little ways so you can see what I have. Sorry, Scotty, you've got to move. Goodbye, Scotty. Alright. This is my adult fiction shelf. It doesn't have that much on it. And a lot of these I haven't read. I have Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood, haven't read. Villette by Charlotte Bronte, haven't read. Girl with a Pearl Earring, haven't read. After that, I have those two Agatha Christie's, and then There Were None, and Murder on the Orient Express, loved both of those. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, haven't read yet. Lost World, I read. I had a little gross paperback, which I traded out for this hardcover that I found at a thrift store. So yay. Life of Pi is crammed in there, haven't read. Just got it at Books A Million warehouse sale for $2. That's actually a pretty decent looking paperback. Alright, Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, whatever, haven't read. Madame Bovary, I started it, haven't finished it. Spire by Golding, I haven't read. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, haven't read. Then we have two guilty pleasure books by Winston Graham, Demelza and Jeremy Poldark, have read. Then Dashiell Hammett's, have not read. Started it, haven't read. Anyhow. Jungle Book, I read. That book also contains other classics, which I have not read. Selected works of T.S. Spivet, haven't read, liked the movie, so I bought the book because it was at the dollar store. Yes, for $1. So couldn't help myself. Moby Dick, I read last summer. It was a grueling experience, but I survived. Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orski, whatever. Read it as a teenager and loved it, so I came across it at a thrift store. Haven't reread it yet as an adult. Alright, and then after that I have The Old Women, Two Old Women. Someone recommended that to me. I have not read it yet. Then The Martian by Andy Weir. I adored that book. Loved that book. I might one day replace that with a hardcover if I come across one. So, yeah. Alright, and then after that we have my giant stack of Star Trek books, and I'm not going into all the titles and authors on those. On top of that, I have Summer by Edith Wharton. I haven't read Summer. I've read a couple of her other ones. Terry Pratchett, Color of Magic, and Terry Pratchett, Equal Rights. I've read Color of Magic. I was in a rotten mood the day I read it, so unfortunately I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I should have, because usually that would be exactly my thing, fantasy plus absurdity. However, yeah. Oh well. I'm going to read Equal Rights when I'm in a good mood. I'm going to wait. And next shelf. Man, we're moving along actually pretty good. Excellent. Alright, this is kind of my nonfiction shelf. So again, I'll be fast. I've got a couple Bill Bryson books. At Home, which I started reading, and it's very entertaining. And A Short History of Nearly Everything. And then A History of the English-Speaking Peoples by Winston Churchill. No, I have not completed that. 5 Dialogues by Plato. I think I read all of that one. 7 Brief Lessons on Physics I read and really liked. Making a Point by David Crystal. He's got a set of these books that's about the history of spelling, the history of grammar, and the history of certain words. I can't remember exactly what they're all called. I enjoyed them a lot, and I've been meaning to buy them, but I haven't yet. Then I have 1001 Children's Books You Should Read Before You Grow Up. That has been instrumental in helping me select a lot of books. It's really been wonderful for finding books that you don't hear about much anymore. So that book has been used to death. I might need another copy because it's starting to come unglued. Alright, Man's Search for Meaning. That doesn't seem like a fun book. I bought it anyways because someone recommended it. Haven't read it yet. Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up and its sequel Spark Joy by Marie Kondo. I know they're a little cliche at this point, but I don't care. They helped me really focus my book collection. I donated a bajillion books because I realized, hey, I don't need them if I'm never going to read them again. So now my book collection is primarily books I haven't read yet, or books I've read and know I want to read again. So that's actually been a great way of weeding it down. That's the rest of these ones. In the Garden of Beasts, Journals of Lewis and Clark, and a selection of William Shakespeare, and then the Norton Anthology of English Literature and American Literature. Those are basically books that I will probably read, then donate, or not. I've actually read Shakespeare before. So those might just be keepers until I get some hardcovers. Alright. Yay, we're traveling down to the next shelf. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, goodness. Sort of. Alright, bookshelf tour continued. This is the beginning of my juvenile shelf. If you don't like children's books that much, you could probably go ahead and shut it off here, because pretty much the rest of this is my juvenile fiction collection. There's a couple books that maybe kind of are borderline, but yeah, most of this is juvenile fiction. Let me go ahead and move my Hocus Pocus mug out of the way. Alright, I'm going to go as quick as I can. I have The Wizard and the Tree by Lloyd Alexander. I just read that one. I'm working my way through this shelf right now. I'm trying to read all the things I haven't read yet. I have Crenshaw by Applegate. Loved that. I was really surprised what it was about. I thought it was about just kind of like this giant magic cat, and it turns out it was more about homelessness. So good job, Applegate. You snuck that one in on me. I have Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Princess Bride by William Goldman. Let me go ahead and move that over. Poppy by Avi, however he says his name. Her name. I don't know. Seems kind of neutral. Old Wolf I just read. I think it's probably a good book for someone who is not quite ready for Call of the Wild or White Fang, but still likes that kind of book. Old Wolf is probably a good choice. I have Babbitt's Search for Delicious. That is one strange juvenile fiction book. I don't know if I recommend it or not. It's really strange. I also have Knock Rise. She seems to have been on this fable kick. I don't know if that's all her books or what, but they're both books that really try to teach a lesson without being too heavy-handed. Knock Rise is a little bit heavier-handed, but still it works out. Then I've got a few Animal Arc books by Baglio, and what's interesting about those, I hadn't noticed it before, that they seem to be patterned after the James Herriot veterinary books for adults. So yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. I didn't pick up on that when I used to read them as a kid. I bought these ones for my kid in hopes that she would like them. I just read Hound at the Hospital just so that I would kind of remember what they were like. And that's when I suddenly realized, hey, wait a minute. I think this guy has to have been a pretty big fan of James Herriot as well. So let's see. Moving on from there, The Frog Princess by Baker. I actually really liked this one. It's part of a series. I would probably buy the other ones if I found them at the thrift store or something like that. Peter Pan by Sir James M. Barrie. I just read this one as well. I read it as a kid, I think, but I didn't remember it. Reading it as an adult, I would say it's definitely pretty problematic and racist and on, and pretty violent. You know, all those things. But I was a pretty big Peter Pan fan as a kid. I loved the animated movie. I loved Hook. And so part of me still really enjoyed the book, even though I would have problems recommending it to someone. The next book is an Ivy and Bean book by Barrow, also bought for my kid because we're still trying to figure out what she likes. I have not read that one yet. Then I have Volume 1 of the Oz books that includes Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Marvelous Land of Oz, and Ozma of Oz. I think I read Ozma as a kid. I read Wonderful Wizard of Oz last year. I haven't read Marvelous Land of Oz yet. The Penderwicks by Birdsall. I just read that one recently. Again, I'm working through these shelves one at a time. I really enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of a very old-fashioned storybook. Sort of like... Goodness, I'm trying to think of what's close. It's like Little Women, but with more adventure. And modernized. But it doesn't have too much that lets you know it's modern. Every once in a while they mention a TV or a car, and so you know it's somewhat modern, but it's careful not to date itself. I think that's pretty smart. I'll probably pick up the rest of the books in the series, just because I enjoyed it enough. I think that one's going to probably hold up fairly well. The next book I have is Secrets According to Humphrey. It's book 10. My plan was to buy the other ones. I haven't yet. My daughter thought she'd be interested in Humphrey, so we'll see. Then I have a bunch of Judy Blume books. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I read that one last year. And then the other Judy Blume books I read as a child, but I can't recall them. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, otherwise known as Sheila the Great, Super Fudge, Fudgemania, and Freckle Juice. Then I have a couple by Enid Blyton. I have one of the Secret 7 books, and I have one of the Famous 5 books. I bought those to try them out. And I have the Amelia Jane collection. I have not read that one yet either. And I have book 3 of The Last Kids on Earth. Let me go ahead and move the camera down. Whee! Yay! Alright, so these are library books that I'm reading. I will review those later. I'm almost finished with them. Alright, so I have Arabian Nights laying in there on top because I didn't have any room for it. I also have Cat Wings laying there on top by Ursula Le Guin, however you pronounce it. That's very silly, but I liked it because I'm silly and I like that kind of thing. So Cats with Wings was totally okay with me. I'm going to have to find the other Cat Wings books because it's just too stinking cute. So, are they great literature? No, they're not, but they're a lot of fun to read. I have Wuthering Heights. Let's see. How Lunchbox Jones Saved Me from Robots, Traitors, and Missy the Cruel. Haven't read it yet. It was a Sunshine State Young Readers Advisory book a couple years ago. So that's why I bought it when I saw it discounted, but I have not read it yet. Stanley Flat Again and Flat Stanley, my daughter used to really enjoy. I used to read those to her. Saddle Clump, that's one of my childhood books, so it's on there, just in case kid feels the urge to read it. Because of Mr. Turrup, I heard was really good, so I bought it, haven't read yet. Humphrey Carpenter's Mr. Magica and the School Inspector. I believe these books are on the list of children's books you should read before you grow up. I have not read it yet. Then I have an Erie Elementary book that the kid picked out and then didn't really like that much, but it's still there, just in case. Then I have a book by Ruth Chu called The Witch's Buttons. I've heard a lot about Ruth Chu. I heard that her books were pretty enjoyable. I have not yet read them, so we'll see. I have a couple Choose Your Own Adventures. I used to love those as a kid. I died every time. I could never figure out my way through the book. But back when I was a kid, I couldn't find my way out of a damp paper bag either, so yay! So I was really disappointed when I could very easily negotiate the Choose Your Own Adventure now as an adult, so oh well. Then I have a bunch of Beverly Cleary. I have Beezus and Ramona, Ramona the Pest, Mitch and Amy, Strider, Ellen Tebbets, Dear Mr. Henshaw, Ramona and her mother, Ramona and her father, Ramona the Brave, Ramona and Beezus, Henry and Beezus, Henry and Ribsy, Henry Huggins. And they just keep going. How many of these have I read? Oh yeah, like none, I think. Though I take that back. I read Dear Mr. Henshaw last year. And I liked it. It wasn't what I expected. But you know what? Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's nice when a book isn't what you expected. Alright, moving down to the next shelf. I know this is very low tech, but hey, it's still books, right? It's still books, even if it's very low tech. Alright, you can't see these very well because the lighting is terrible, but I have Runaway Ralph, a couple versions, Ralph S. Mouse, Colville's Into the Land of Unicorns. I have Walk 2 Moons by Creech. That book is really good, but really sad. Catherine Called Birdie by Cushman. I have one of the Bailey School Kids books by Dady. And then I have a bunch of Roald Dahl books. The Witches, George's Marvelous Medicine, The BFG, The Enormous Crocodile. I haven't read George's Marvelous Medicine, but I've read the other ones. Let me move this camera a little bit closer to see if that counteracts how dark it is. A little bit. Yeah, that helps. This is a Dear America book. I picked it up because it was Finnish. One side of my family's Finnish, so I was curious. Haven't read it yet. I have Scythe lying here on top because my other bookshelf was full. Hi, Scythe. Let me move you back where you belong, now that there's room. Then I have one of those box sets with Gulliver's Travels and Robinson Crusoe. I bought this for kid. They look like they're probably abridged, which is probably best. Some of these old books, if you're going to hand them to kids, sometimes it's kind of nicer that they're abridged. Especially if they remove some of the more horrific content. That's good. I need a real version for me, but you know, kid needs something to read too, right? House of 60 Fathers by Dejong. I have a feeling that's going to be problematic. But I couldn't help myself. I bought it anyways. Then a whole pile of Hardy Boys books, because kids showed the briefest interest, and so thus I have them. Moving along. Whee! Panning! Yay, have fun. Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I read that to death as a kid, and my copy was garbage, so now I have that copy that I haven't even taken the plastic wrap off of yet. Then the Julie Edwards Treasury. I've been told to read Mandy a few times, and that has Mandy in it. Have not read it yet. Then next to that, you can't see it because it's tucked in. Let's see. Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis. Birch Bark House by Erdrich. I've read that and enjoyed that. Erskine, Mockingbird. Then I have a pile of Black Stallion books because I adored these as a kid. So I have a reader copy, and then I have this wonderful vintage hardcover copy. Yay, it's beautiful. And so, yeah. I was so excited to find that the other day because it looks just like the one I used to check out from the library. So yes, reader copy, pretty shelf copy, because I'm not insane or anything. So yeah, Black Stallion Mystery, Black Stallion Returns, Black Stallion and Satan. And then next to that, I have Fitzhugh's Harriet the Spy, which I enjoyed as a kid. Haven't read as an adult again, but, you know. Pictures of Hollis Woods by Patricia Riley Giff. Have not read that yet. Princess in Black, my child is obsessed with, even though she's kind of too old for it now, but oh well. Child of the Wolves by Elizabeth Hall, I have not read. Also haven't read Courage for Beginners, any of the Rescue Princess books. Again, that's one I bought for kid, not really for me to read anyways. Hartnett the Silver Donkey, have not read either. Alright, scrolling around. We're getting there. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Alright. Marguerite Henry books. reader copies. That's kind of what's over there. I have Stormy Misty's Full, Misty of Shinkatig, Sea Star, another version of Sea Star, and King of the Wind. Those are the ones that my kid can carry around and do whatever she wants with, because I've got the nice copies up top. Then I have Holmes the 14th Goldfish. I've been told to read this book like several times. Have not gotten to it yet. Pioneer Cat is right next to it. I read that as a kid, and then I saw it again at a thrift store and couldn't help myself, so I bought it. I can't remember if it's good or not. Then I have a pile of Bunnicula books because, duh, Bunnicula. I used to love reading them to my kid. My kid, when she was like 4 or 5 or so, went through this phase where she loved scary books, but, not real scary books, just, kid scary books. So I used to read those to her, like, all the time. Alright. Then we have Across 5 Aprils, which was not what I expected it to be. If you ever read it, you'll see what I mean, and I'm not going to ruin it by saying anything. I enjoyed it, but it's historical fiction, so it's a little bit slow. So if you feel like historical fiction and want it to surprise you, you could read Across 5 Aprils. Then Hunters Into the Wild. This is another one I bought for kid. Comet in Moominland by Tove Jansson, I bought for me. Before Tomorrowland, honestly, bought because the cover was pretty, haven't read. Howl's Moving Castle. That's pretty high up my list to read. Have not read it yet. I had a really gross paperback, and then I came across this one, which was way better. One day maybe I'll even find a hardcover, but I doubt it. Phantom Toll Booth by Juster. Have not read yet. Then I have a few Nancy Drew books that I read as a kid. Trumpeter of Krakow. I have not read. Tales of Emily Windsnap. I have not read. I just bought that recently for kid. Then I have a whole pile of books by Dick King-Smith. If you liked the movie Babe the Pig, they're his books. So, yes. So I have Babe the Gallant Pig, I have Smasher, I have The 9 Lives of Aristotle, The Sheep, Pig, and Ace, The Schoolmouse, Pigs Might Fly, and The Water Horse. Then I have a whole pile of... Hold on, you can't see it anymore. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Let's see. I am just missing, book 13, and I guess now there's another book. So yeah, those are kids' books. I don't read those. Those are hers. So yeah. Alright. Going down to the next shelf. Hopefully. Almost. That's okay. Circling back around. Circling back around. Alright. Bear with me 1 second. Alright. Where's the right height? I guess that's not bad. And these ones need to go down to that level. Yay. I should have just paused the video to do this, because that would have been way smarter, but I'm not super smart. Alright. Whew, that was terrible. I will edit that, I hope. So I have Kelgard's Stormy, Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. I enjoyed that one. Horses of the Dawn, The Escape by Lasky. I don't know. That was a freebie. Haven't read it yet. Robert Lawson's Rabbit Hill, I read. I believe it was a Newbery winner. Meet the Austins by Madeline Langle. Have not read yet. Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn. Haven't read. A few Pippi Longstocking books, and Rania the Robber's Daughter by Lindgren. I think I've read half of Pippi Longstocking. I just kept losing it. But now I have it out on a shelf, so I shouldn't lose it anymore. I might actually finish it. Then I have a couple Mrs. Pigglewiggle books. And then for McLaughlin, I have Caleb's Story and Skylark, but not the first book. Sarah Plain and Tall, so I should fix that at some point. Then I have Bob. I have really enjoyed Mass's juvenile fiction, and I've enjoyed Stead's juvenile fiction, so a book that they worked on together should be pretty darn good. Haven't read it yet. I just bought it 2 weeks ago, though, in my defense. So, Robert McCloskey's Canterbury Tales, haven't read yet. Secret Soldier by McGovern, I read as a kid. Then Anna Green Gables, my giant Anna Green Gables collection, several versions. And yes, that box set is still in plastic. I got it home, was so excited, and then realized it didn't include books 7 and 8, so I still have my gross childhood paperbacks for 7 and 8. So, I don't even know. I don't know why you would put them out without putting all of them out, but, you know. Alright. And then Stars Beneath Our Feet by David Moore, Kavik the Wolf Dog by Maury, Michael Morpurgo's War Horse, Owls in the Family by Farley Mowat, Red Dirt Jessie by Anna Myers. Haven't read that one. I have read Owls in the Family. I loved that. I have not read Stars Beneath Their Feet, The Wolf Dog, or War Horse. Equestria Girls I bought for my kid. I am not obligated to read that. That is child's book. Then I bought Wet Magic and Railway Children by E. Nesbitt. I enjoyed Five Children and It, so I had to buy those two as well. Then I have The Borrowers by Norton and The Borrowers Afloat, which you can't see because The Borrowers is sticking out too far. Let me slide that over, and we shall commence again. Borrowers, I've read the first book. I haven't read all of them. Then there is Cranky Paws, which is just another kid book. I'm not obligated to read that. My Friend Flicka by O'Hare, I loved as a kid. Don't know if I would love it now, but I have it. My Big Fat Zombie Goldfish, I've been reading to kid. We've been reading those together. I recommend them for children. There are some books that both adults and children enjoy. I think My Big Fat Zombie Goldfish is more of just for kids. Then I have Kenneth Oppel's Sunwing and The Nest. I loved The Nest. The Nest was a nice, creepy book for kids. It was very suspenseful. I thought that was pretty great. Then I have, let's see, a Magic Treehouse book randomly in there. Then an Amelia Bedelia book. And then a whole pile of Junie B. Jones. Because my kid was on a major Junie B. Jones kick for a while. And we read most of those. I think there's like 3 or 4 we didn't read. Then I have Great Gilly Hopkins that I have not read. I have Hatchet and Dog Song by Gary Paulson. I've read Hatchet. I haven't read Dog Song. I have Peck's A Long Way from Chicago and A Year Down Yonder. I loved A Year Down Yonder. I haven't read the other one yet. Alright. Moving the camera down again. Alright, so then we have Littles Take a Trip, The Littles, Freak the Mighty, The Mostly True Adventures of Homer P. Figg, and The Young Man and the Sea. A lot of those were by Rodman Philbrick, except for The Littles, which is they're by Peterson. Then, how many of those have I read? I've read The Littles. I have not read Philbrick's yet. I know I'm going to like Freak the Mighty, but I'm not ready to read it yet. So then a whole pile of Captain Underpants, because that's where we're at here. Kid absolutely loves them. I read parts of them. I think they're more for kids, so I just let her enjoy them. Then I have Mrs. Pepperpot and The Westing Game by Raskin. I liked The Westing Game. That was actually pretty decent. Let's see. Illustrated Harry Potter. I haven't bought the 4th one yet. I almost caved and bought it today, but I did not. I had self-control. It was amazing. It was actually pretty terrible. I hate having self-control and being a grown-up. Alright, and then book 4, 5, 6, and 7. And Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And then a pile of Dork Diaries. I am also not obligated to read those. Those are also kids' books. Then The Little Prince that I've read. Splendors and Glooms. I actually really liked that book. It's kind of creepy for a kid's book. And then Annie Schmidt, the Cat Who Came In Off the Roof. And then the other Schmidt, Wednesday Wars and Okay for Now. Haven't read those either. And then let's see. Oh my goodness, it just continues. Alright. So bear with me a minute while I go ahead and try to get you down to the next shelf. I don't know if the camera goes that low. Actually, I know the camera won't go that low. So, we're going to have... Let's see. A fun field trip, kids, where Jennifer holds the camera. Alright. So these aren't that spectacular. I have Jason Segel's Everything You Need to Know About Nightmares. I haven't read that yet. I bought that for kid. Cricket in Times Square. A Horrid Henry book. 101 Dalmatians. Lemony Snicket. A pile of them, but not all of them. When You Reach Me by Rebecca Stead. I really liked that one. But first you have to read Wrinkle in Time. Mysterious Benedict Society I bought because it was discounted and I have not read yet. When the Sirens Wailed. This looks like a World War II historical fiction. Have not read yet. Pile of Geronimo Stiltons. Pile of Goosebumps. A cluster of the I Survived books. My Life as a Gamer. Then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Summer Vacation from the Black Lagoon. And then a box set of Laura Ingalls Wilder. Does anybody care about my picture book collection? Please say no. I'm going to just do kind of a slow scroll. Pause it if you care and want to see any of these. So Bad Guys, Kingdom Hearts, Dogman, Calvin and Hobbes. And then back down to the bottom shelf. Piles of picture books. Does anybody care? Nobody cares, because it's picture books. I enjoy picture books, but, I mean, there's probably, 150 of them on the shelf, and that's just way too much time to spend on any one thing. So, that is my bookshelf tour. Yeah, I have to say I discovered that I have almost no adult and YA, and pretty much everything I own is juvenile fiction. Because apparently I'm such a grown-up.